Hello everybody, it's Keagan here. I'm back with another video for you guys, and it's time for another movie review video once again. And this review is going to be the season 6 finale of Keagan's movie reviews. And then after this review, I will be taking a break from doing movie reviews for the rest of the month, and I will return with season 7 starting after New Year's. And since Christmas is only 2 days away, I might as well make this a bit of a Christmas special. And we're going to be talking about 3 movies today. 2 of these are Christmas themed movies, and the other is not a Christmas themed movie, but I'm going to review it last as a bit of a bonus review for this video. Anyways, let's not waste any more time and let's dive into today's movies. The first film we're going to be talking about today is the 1988 action film Die Hard. This film was directed by John McTiernan, and it was based on the novel Nothing Lasts Forever by Roderick Thorpe. I've never read the novel that this film is based on, so I'm not exactly sure how faithful this movie is to its source material it was based on. And this film was originally released on July 20th, 1988. Die Hard is the first film in the series, and this film is regarded as one of the greatest action films of all time, and for good reason, but we'll get to more on that in a little bit. And for many years since the film's released, people have debated whether you can consider this film a Christmas movie or not. And even people like Bruce Willis himself, the lead star of the film, went on to say that he doesn't consider Die Hard to be a Christmas film. Personally, I think this film is a Christmas movie because this movie takes place on Christmas Eve. It has a lot of Christmas decorations in the background, and Christmas is mentioned various times in the film. So I basically come to the conclusion that Die Hard is a Christmas film, indeed. Let's go through the storyline very quickly, and then we'll get into my thoughts on it. So let's take a dive into Die Hard. Now, this film follows a New York City police officer named John McClane, played by Bruce Willis, who comes to Los Angeles to spend Christmas with his estranged wife named Holly, played by Bonnie Bedelia. So John comes to Los Angeles to spend Christmas with his family and try to get back together with his wife. So he meets up with Holly at her workplace at the Nakatomi Plaza, which is the corporation she works for. However, the night takes a drastic turn when a group of terrorists, led by their leader, Hans Gruber, played by the late Alan Rickman, take over the plaza and take all the employees, including Holly, hostage. And they are taking over the plaza to rob the corporation of what's in their safe, like the cash inside the safe of the building. However, the terrorists don't realize that McClane is a cop, and John McClane is trying to do everything in his power to save his wife and save the night while taking down the terrorists one by one. And he's trying to make the problem is these terrorists are well armed and have a lot of artillery to fight against anything that stands in their way, including the authorities. So it's up to John McClane to stop the terrorists and save the day. And without giving away too much, that's basically the story of the film in a nutshell. It should definitely go without saying, Die Hard is one of the greatest action films of all time, and for good reason. It focuses on things that most action movies don't do these days. Like, it has a slow build up to the action, like it's got a story and characters you care about, and the story is well written too. You got John trying to reconnect with his estranged wife after being away from each other for several months, and they're on the verge of getting divorced. So he's trying to get back together with his wife and kids during Christmas. And by the time the terrorists come in and mess up the night, he's determined to do everything in his power to save the hostages, stop the terrorists, and save the day and get back with his wife in the process. He's basically a one-man army versus 12 terrorists. And it's definitely a classic film for sure. I saw the film at my favorite theater the other night. It was my third time watching the film, but my first time seeing it in theaters. And I had a lot of fun seeing it in theaters. And holy shit, there was a lot of people at the movie. There was like so many people. Like, it was almost sold out. But yeah, I had a lot of fun seeing it in theaters. But overall, Die Hard is a really great film. Great action, really good writing in the story. The characters are well written, and Bruce Willis does a great job in the film. And this was definitely his career-defining role. Well, one of the best films of his career. And Alan Rickman did a great job as the villain. May he rest in peace. And there are also 4 other sequels to this movie. While all of them are pretty good, except for A Good Day to Die Hard, that movie sucked. They don't quite live up to the success and greatness of the original, but they're still fun to watch, except for the 5th movie, though. I'll probably talk about those movies one day in the future. But overall, Die Hard is one of the greatest action films of all time, and if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. It's a classic for sure. And yep, so I don't have anything else to add, so I'm giving Die Hard a 9 out of 10. The next film we're going to be talking about is Black Christmas, the original. This is a 1974 Canadian horror film directed by the late Bob Clark, who also directed A Christmas Story. And this film was originally released on October 11th, 1974 in Canada, but in the US it came out on December 20th of the same year. I actually watched this movie for the first time at my favorite theater last night, and I had a lot of fun seeing it in theaters, and there was a lot of people when I saw it, but I had a really good time seeing it in theaters. And this was one that's been on my watch list for a long time, and I finally crossed it off my watch list, and I really enjoyed it. And I know that this film is considered one of the best Canadian films of all time, and I can honestly agree with that. But we'll get to more on that in a little bit. So on to the story, and then on to my thoughts. The story for Black Christmas is a very simple one. It follows a group of girls at a sorority house who are being stalked by a killer during Christmas time. The killer is leaving them obscene phone calls, stalking them, and killing them off one by one. And the authorities are trying to put a stop to it and are trying to find out who's responsible for the murders. It's a very simple story, so you can probably guess where it goes from here. I don't have too much to say about this one, so we'll get by this one pretty quickly. But I really enjoyed Black Christmas. I can totally get behind the hype train behind this one. I didn't really find it all that scary, honestly. Although I will say it is very suspenseful and creepy at times. But I'd say it's a bit more of a comedy than it is a horror movie. But it does have its creepy and suspenseful moments throughout the film. It's not very gory. A lot of the violence is barely shown. But I guess that's what really drives the suspense for the film. Like, you mostly see the aftermath of the kills throughout the film. But I think it's done that way on purpose for it to be suspenseful in any kind of way. Like, it doesn't rely on gore and jump scares that a lot of horror movies these days rely on. I don't mind seeing gore in horror movies, but jump scares can be a bit of annoying and a bit of a cheap way for people like to deliver scares and stuff. But I really enjoyed this film. It was really entertaining, and this is one I will definitely plan to watch again every December during Christmas time. And it's been on my watch list for a long time, and I finally crossed it off. And it's definitely one of the best Canadian horror films of all time. And I'd say it's up there with Videodrome and some of Cronenberg's other stuff. And can't really think of any other Canadian horror movies at the moment. Oh, and My Bloody Valentine. That's another great Canadian horror film that I'll probably review one day. I know there's 2 remakes to this film. One came out in 2006, which was titled Black Xmas, which I might check out one day, although I hear it's not very good, but I'll probably still check it out one day. And there was another remake titled just Black Christmas that came out in 2019. I'm going to avoid watching that one like it's the plague, because I hear that one's really terrible, and it's a PG-13 horror movie. I mean, like a slasher. But seriously, why the hell would you want to make a PG-13 rated slasher movie like a remake of an R-rated horror flick from the 70s? Like, that's just shit. I'm not going to bother with the 2019 film. But all in all, Black Christmas, great horror film to watch around Christmas time, and I would highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. And yep, so I'm giving Black Christmas an 8.5 out of 10. And the last film we're going to be talking about in this video is kind of a bonus review for this video. And it's not a Christmas movie, but it's a classic film. And it was directed by Quentin Tarantino, which, believe it or not, I've never actually reviewed a Quentin Tarantino movie before on this channel. But today that finally changes. So the last film we're going to be talking about is the 1994 film Pulp Fiction, which was written by Quentin Tarantino and co-written by Roger Avary, and it was directed by Quentin Tarantino. The film premiered at the Cannes Film Festival on May 21st, 1994, before getting released on October 14th of the same year. And this was also the film that won the Palme d'Or of the Cannes Film Festival that year. This film is widely regarded as one of the greatest films of all time, and for good reason. It's a well-written film that basically is a bit of a satire on a lot of pulp novel fiction, like hard-boiled crime novels from like the early 20th century and such. And the stories are told in a non-linear, like non-chronological order, which is very interesting. I remember the first time I watched this movie when I was 16, and I was really impressed by it. And by then, I was really, really getting into movies like how I am now. Like, when I first watched this movie, I was really getting into movies like how I am now. Like, I'm like the film buff I am now, which back then I was starting to become the film buff that I am today. So, as always, we'll get into the story quickly, and then we'll get into my thoughts on it. So, let's take a dive into Pulp Fiction. Now, this film has a few different stories. One of the stories involves two hitmen, played by Samuel L. Jackson and John Travolta, who are sent to retrieve a briefcase that was stolen by their employer, a mob boss named Marsalis Wallace, played by Ving Rhames. Another story involves one of the hitmen, played by John Travolta, who takes Mia Wallace, played by Uma Thurman, the wife of Marsalis Wallace. He takes her out for dinner one night, dancing, and out for a good time. And another story involves an aging boxer named Butch, played by Bruce Willis, who gets paid to lose his match, but then it goes wrong when he accidentally kills his opponent, and he is on the run from Marsalis Wallace, who's out to get him. And without giving away too much detail of the stories, that's basically what the stories in Pulp Fiction are about. Now, this movie is definitely a classic for good reason, and is a good example of films that are told with a non-linear story, like where the stories are told in a non-chronological order. Another example of a movie like this that I could think of is a recent movie called Strange Darling that I talked about a while ago, and Mulholland Drive and Lost Highway. Even though those two movies are David Lynch movies that are completely different than how the story in Pulp Fiction is told, those are some other examples of films with a non-linear storyline that I can think of at the moment. But it's got a great cast of characters and a really good cast. You got Bruce Willis, John Travolta, Uma Thurman, Samuel L. Jackson. You even got Rosanna Arquette and many others in the film. It's funny, it's well written, and while not overly violent, it is fairly violent at times, including the scene at the pawn shop, which I don't want to spoil it. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. The dialogue in this movie is really, really well written, which is what a lot of Quentin Tarantino films are best known for, their dialogue and violence. And it's all in all just a really, really great film. I think most of you people probably have seen it, but if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. I think most of the people who've watched this video probably have already seen it, but if you haven't seen Pulp Fiction, definitely check it out. It's a classic and is one of Quentin Tarantino's best films. This might be my favorite Quentin Tarantino movie, either this or Django Unchained, which I plan to review one of these days. But all in all, Pulp Fiction is a classic, and it still holds up 30 years later after the film's release. But all in all, it's a classic. What can you say about it? Anyways, I don't have anything else to add, so I'm giving Pulp Fiction a 9 out of 10. Well, that's about it. That wraps up this video, and that is the end for Season 6 of Keagan's movie reviews. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed the video, leave a like, comment below, and subscribe for more videos like this. And I will be back with more movie reviews starting after New Year's with the start of Season 7 of Keagan's movie reviews. So I want to thank you guys all again for watching this video and watching all my other movie reviews. I love doing movie reviews, and I will be back with more movie reviews right after the new year. So until then, thanks again for watching, and I hope you all have a great day, and I'll talk to you guys later. And yeah, have a great day, everybody. Peace out. Bye bye.